Hey everybody, welcome to The Warp. I'm Jack Reeder with Future Pastimes, and in this video I'm going to be talking about deep space stations. Now this is a variant to space stations, and it comes to us from Cosmic Odyssey, which is the 7th expansion to Cosmic Encounter. But space stations were introduced in Cosmic Storm, the 4th expansion to Cosmic Encounter. And it came with 10 space stations. 10 more were introduced in Cosmic Odyssey, but also the two space station variants, one of which is deep space stations and the other is sky cities. And I'm going to be doing a deep dive on deep space stations, how they are different from regular stations, how they space stations, how they work, and the different effects for each one. And so I like to do things in denominations divisible by 8. So there are 8 of these, 8 of the sky cities as well. So in an 8-player game, everybody can have one. And there's enough space stations now that you can deal at least 2 to each player and have them pick one. But how you choose your space stations or whatever, there's quite a few ways you can do it. We like to deal everybody one of each, and then we either pick one or we pick 2. But you could shuffle them all together and deal them out in a number of different ways. So let's start with first how they're a little bit different. So with space stations, you're going to get a space station, and you're going to assign it to one of your planets. And as long as you have a colony on that planet, you have the ability of that space station. Now, when you lose it, if somebody else lands their ships there, they don't get the space station. You just don't get it. So the effect is turned off as long as you don't have a colony on that planet. It does tend to make these pretty big targets, but they're also tradable in deals. So there's reasons why you might not want somebody to get a hold of that, or can make a deal to protect it for longer. Now, the sky cities also go to a specific planet, but the way they work is everybody who has a colony on that planet has access to the sky city's ability, and it still tends to make them pretty big targets. But deep space stations are a little bit different. You get the station, it goes out in your system, and it's never targeted. And so you have use of this for as long as you have at least 4 colonies in your system. And if you drop down below 4 home colonies, then you lose access to your deep space station. But again, the effect is like a space station. The effect is not taken away from you. They are still tradable in deals. So you might decide, you know what, maybe you're ahead in the colony count, so you're trying to get somebody's deep space station as part of a deal in exchange for a colony, or vice versa, or to just sweeten that deal. Tell you what, I'll give you a colony if you give me a colony and a deep space station. That would be nice. So yeah, very, very simple, very straightforward. If the owner of the system ever has fewer than 4 home colonies, then they lose the ability of their deep space station, and you would flip it face down. Although here, it's the same on both sides. So you'd have to find out a different way to do. We just set it aside. Actually, you turn the card face down. That's what you're doing. Yeah, because I think it is the same on both sides, even in the physical one. So let's take a look at what these do. The artwork, I think, is great. I love how these turned out. They look fun. They look like the sort of thing you might find floating in deep space near a system. So let's take a look at what we've got. So we'll start with the first one, which has the same art on the back. So the back art on all 3 types is different. And one of the things, the idea that I had was that the card backs kind of represented the sort of area of space. So the sky cities, it's like Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back. So they are in the atmosphere. So it's a much lighter blue. Normal space station is this dark blue, but the deep space station is, farther away from their star, the local sun. So it's even darker. So that's just a little Easter egg for me. But yes, we're looking at what the effects are. So let's look at this one first. This is the Burst Targeter. So it's when you're the defense only or a defensive ally. Before the encounter cards are selected, you may force 2 ships of your choice on the other side to return to their colonies. So it's a nice deterrent. It forces the other players. They're going to have to commit a lot of ships. Otherwise, you could knock an entire player out. And it's interesting having this in a game with Lux, for instance, where somebody who is interested in getting a lot of Lux only sends one ship as the offense. But here you can say, well, I'm booting you out of here. And so you don't have any ships in there. Now, if you boot out the offense completely, there's no text here like it would be with like the bully or sloth, who can be. They're still considered the offense. They just have no ships in there, and I treat it the same way. So you just continue the encounter with no ships if you're the offense, and if you win, you're just not going to get anything. So this one, I like this one because, again, even as the defense, you are deterring the other players from allying as well. If they know they've got to commit at least 3 ships, they'd be like, well, you know what, maybe we join the defense instead, or we just sit it out. So that's a nice soft advantage, I think, with that as well. So I enjoy this one. Very straightforward, simple effect, but useful. All right, the next one we have is the freewheeling intensifier. So this one, you can play any number of flares per encounter. Each flare can only be played once. So normally the rule is 1 flare per encounter. At the end of the encounter, if you played only 1 flare, you may draw 1 flare from the, and my favorite term, unused flare deck, which there's about 20 ways it's now used. So just flare deck. I think we all know what that means. And then discard 1 flare. So you can maybe upgrade the flare that you have. You're not necessarily getting more flares, but so yeah, this is really mostly useful if you have multiple flares. And then, yeah, you're looking for excuses. But I've had plenty of instances where I was like, I got these 2 flares that I want to play both of them, and I just got to decide which one's better. So having a freewheeling effect, I think, is good. But this is going to be one of the weaker ones because it does count on you having at least 1 flare, and then you can use the secondary effect. But it's far more useful if you've got multiple flares. But, maybe you find ways to deal. It's a new thing that you are interested in dealing so that you can get those flares. All right, now we have the high activity staging zone. So main player. So when a player becomes your ally, they must specify the number of ships they wish to send. Then you choose which colonies these ships come from. So that there's pros and cons to this. If they want to be your ally, then you have some control over where their ships are coming from. They're going to have to make sure they have a lot of ships on their foreign colonies. Normally, you don't have to worry about having a lot of ships. Everyone likes to have 2 for those rare effects that can target a single ship. But now it's a bigger deal because you might be like, you know what? Let's take a couple of those ships right off of that foreign colony and put them into the gate, or whatever you're going to do. So, yeah, it keeps people on their toes. All right, next one we have the hyperspace redirect. So as the defense, before allies are invited, you may declare that the effects of winning for allies is reversed. So this is like the reverse cone effect, or in the previous editions, but there's a couple of effects now that do that, like the vector alien. So yeah, you can decide that the effects for winning allies is reversed. The offensive allies will gain rewards instead of landing on the targeted planet, and in this case, the defensive allies would land on the targeted planet instead of getting rewards. So that is nice as well. So before allies are invited, so you let them know, hey, if you're going to be joining the offense here, because this is defense only in this case, you're not getting a colony. So if you want a colony, maybe you join my side. So that can have a pretty powerful effect, and their vector can kind of just work their way around it. The obligatron. So this is only when you're an ally. As an ally, after you send ships into the encounter, declare a number for each player that becomes an ally after you. If that player sends more ships than the number that you chose, you can take a card at random from their hand. So you can really have an effect on the other allies. But that's going to be dependent on where you are in a turn order. So if the white is the offense and I'm pink here and I've got the obligatron, I can really affect all the other players, because it doesn't matter which side they're going to join. It's if they become an ally. So this one can be, and this has got kind of a scary art. That's really, I don't know what's going on there. That's but it's cool. I like it. All right, the last three, we've got the Option Cycler, main player. So after you reveal an attack card with a value of at least 11, you may treat it as a negotiate. And if the card's value was at least 20, you will triple compensation if applicable. So I just like this. I like the options. I think it's kind of a fun way to shake up the game, and especially with depending on what sorts of effects you have in the game, and if you're using the large group cards as well, you've got another 30. So that's kind of fun. Now we have the population monitor, also main player. After cards are revealed, you may add 2 to your total for each of your home colonies. So you're going to start off much more powerful with your population monitor, and if you start losing home colonies, although of course if you lose 2, then you no longer have this ability. But it's nice to get this, and maybe you get the Genesis planet or some other effect that gives you another home colony. And then at last we have the Quark Refinery. So as a main player, if you reveal an odd valued attack card, you may increase its value by 5, and if your opponent reveals one, you can reduce its value by 5 as well. So it makes those odd. The odd cards are less common than the even cards. And so this just ups it up a little bit more, makes it a little more interesting. People have to think about saving. You want to save your odd cards for when you're going to be a main player, and other players, let's get rid of them when we're not having to face the Quark Refinery player, so that we're not stuck with them at that point. So those are the effects. And the shape of the deep space stations are little hexagons. That is obviously a clear nod to the shapes of the systems in the previous editions of the game, at least the Eon and Mayfair. The Avalon Hill one was shaped like, I don't know, a wing, an angel's wing, something like that. So yeah, little hexagons and fun art. The effects, they're not so crazy that, we do frequently have a couple of type. And sometimes we have multiple space stations. We're going all hog wild. So this is the one that everybody wants to get on, so they'll get that effect. This one they want to just take away from you. This one you're using along the way. So yeah, it's just kind of fun to have some in there. So let me know what your favorite deep space station effect is, and if you've had a chance to use these. I think it's one of the great things about this expansion, Cosmic Odyssey, is that it's just got so many variants in it. And so you've got lots of different ways to add some excitement and intrigue to your Cosmic games. And of course, the age cards, whether you're using the campaign or not, this is all the campaign stuff. We like to use the age cards just to say, all right, we're using, here's how we're going to select our aliens, and this is the variant that we're using. So it'll tell us to use space stations. And we just find that we're using the variants much more frequently by employing those age cards. So that's it for this one, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.